Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's call of group coaching for the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. The topic for tonight is business credit and capital raise. So we're going to talk about building financial foundations for your business. We're going to talk about credit. We're going to talk about capital. When do you, and we're going to go over some like FAQs, like when do you want to raise capital? When do you want to self-fund? When do you want to crowdsource? When do you want to get institutional investors? And some best practices that go with all of that. So as we start tonight, I like to start with a quote. And so here is one from the co-founder of Uber. It's easy to dream big, but you have to think big when raising capital. Investors don't just buy your idea, they buy your vision and your ability to execute it. So with that in mind, there's a couple. I always like to talk about movies and TV shows that have inspired me to think about capital. And of course, in my business, and I'll give plenty of examples of that. But I also want to say that there are some great movies and shows out there that talk about raising capital. The Social Network is kind of the story about Facebook and raising capital behind that one. If you haven't seen it, it's very good. We Crashed is a show about the WeWork build up and crash and what they did with raising capital, which was fascinating. Then Super Pumped was the story behind Uber and what they did for capital. So, there's lots of examples out there with big companies and raising capital, but I feel like there's not a lot of conversation on, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and our journey with capital. So that's something I wanted to talk about tonight. Now, I'm going to talk about something that I think most of us are familiar with, which is self-funding. It's bootstrapping a business, and this is something. Now I own multiple businesses, and I have self-funded all of them. So Sunday Brunch, as an advertising agency, is a service-based business, and in my experience, self-funding a service-based business startup requires a least amount of capital because there's no investing in product. Now you have to invest in some infrastructure and some business foundational pieces that every business needs that we'll talk about in a minute. And you have some like software tools and maybe a computer, but otherwise it's time. So this is self-funding, or bootstrapping is often called, is great for early stage or independent small businesses with low capital requirements, right? If you're going to choose self-funding, you might need to find yourself in a situation where you have savings that you can live off of for a little while, depending on how long you think it's going to take your business to be profitable. Now, statistically, it says that most businesses are not profitable, for like 3 to 5 years. So, nobody can really sustain not bringing in revenue for that long unless they've saved up quite a bit, or you're going to maybe be profitable sooner than that. So think about what your personal saving situation is like, or if you have a small personal loan or a small business loan. If your startup costs are manageable without external funding, it's nice to do self-funding, because then, you have full ownership of the company and you're not responsible to, paying back investors or, producing right away. And, that might reduce some of the pressure for you, which may or may not be a good thing, depending on your business and depending on the type of worker that you are. It might result in slow growth. Now, since the financial risk is entirely on you, you're not, beholden to others, maybe slow growth is okay. So if I'm pivoting from Sunday Brunch, which I self-funded, then I said, okay, well, I'm going to start Lynx Bourbon. Well, with Lynx Bourbon, that being a product, there was a lot of output of financial money behind the product, the bottles, the liquor, the bottling, all of the business formation stuff, plus the product. And I decided to self-fund that one. I took savings to self-fund it because I didn't want to share ownership and I didn't want to be beholden to investors, and I was okay with slow growth. Now, people have offered to invest in Lynx Bourbon quite a few times. They were like, well, you can have a faster growth. But I was like, well, why would I want faster growth if it's going to just put me in debt? or if it's going to make me beholden to stockholders. And I don't want to be in that position at this particular crossroads in my life. That just wasn't for me. Now, it could make sense for links or for a similar type of a product or even for a service-based business to think about a different type of investing. If it's not going to be a self-funded capital raise, maybe you are ready for an angel investor. Now, an angel investor is best for also an early stage business, but maybe you're going to take money from friends and family. Maybe you're going to take money from your grandparents or from a friend, or a mentor, someone who believes in you. These people believe in your vision. They're not just interested in your financials. There's probably not as much pressure. They're probably like, consider it almost like, hey, maybe I'll get paid back, make some money. Maybe I won't. It's okay. I'm throwing it out there. I was at a Christmas party at the end of last year. I was chatting with this woman that I've known in the advertising industry for a long time, and she shared with me that she invested $500,000 in a friend's business. And she was like, yeah, I knew I wasn't going to ever get any money of that back. And I was like, really? And you were okay with it? And she was like, well, she's a good friend. And, I was like willing to take the loss. I'm like, wow, must be nice to have that kind of $500,000, just roll the dice. But, angel investors, I think that's how they think they're going to hit it big. Like, they're like, okay, I'm going to set aside a much money. And if one hits, great, then I've made my money back on everything. So, you just have to be in that place. Okay. All there are times with angel investors, sometimes they'll just give it to you. Other times they're going to want equity, maybe a small equity piece, to show some return. Maybe they're going to want like 5% or 10%. And so you can negotiate that as well. Now, the third one is if you're going to like actually go after capital, like venture capital. This is, I would say, better for established businesses with higher growth potential and more scalable models. This is when, you have a very dialed in business plan. You have a very detailed cost structure laid out. You have a proprietary product or proprietary method or something that you own that is trademarked and capitalized on. And, this is going to be a large sum of money. It's going to take a lot of resources. VCs are going to hold you accountable. They're going to use their experience and their network to bring you opportunities and also to add credibility to you. But there is going to be some drawback because you are going to be working for them as much as you are the business owner. You really are now going to be having to be reportable to them and be held accountable to their high expectations and to their rapid growth and profit projections. And you're going to see, if you watch any of those movies that I mentioned, especially Super Pumped, the VC is very highly involved in the way that Uber functions. And you'll see that right from the get-go. So like BlackRock is a VC firm that everybody knows. It's like the biggest one. And, and VC firms like BlackRock and others are actually not only big investors in companies like Equinox, the gym, but they also are purchasing and building houses. So now a lot of times if you like go to rent a house, it's not even owned by a person, it's owned by these venture capital firms. So they're big business, they're big money. And they want a lot of control over your business decisions. So just keep that in mind. Now, a fourth way to go about things, which is a very popular platform to raise money over the last few years, has been crowdsourcing. And there are three websites for crowdsourcing that I really like, and I've seen clients have great success with these. Kickstarter is one, GoFundMe is another, and Indiegogo is the third one. Now, I'm going to kind of give you some highlights of each one. So Kickstarter is best for creative projects. Maybe it's a product launch, maybe it's just like an innovative idea. And how it works is they're going to kind of like, it's an all or nothing funding model, meaning that your project must reach their funding goal in order to receive any money. So, it does give you access to a large community of backers who are eager to support new creative ideas. But if you tell them, hey, listen, we're going to raise $500 and you only raise $450, you don't get the $500. If you say you're going to raise $5 and you raise $600, then you get the whole thing. But if you don't hit the threshold, then you don't get it. So there's a little bit of a risk there. The second one, GoFundMe. This is best for personal causes and nonprofits and really micro small business funding. How it works is unlike Kickstarter, GoFundMe allows more flexible funding, meaning that you keep whatever money is raised, even if your goal isn't met. So if you say you're going to raise 500, you raise 450, you still get it. It's a trusted platform. It's been around a long time. And so that's GoFundMe. The third one, Indiegogo. This is for a lot of startups have a tendency to use this one. And it's flexible funding, means you keep the money you raised, even if you don't hit the goal. And it's a good platform for ongoing sales post campaign through this in-demand feature that they offer. So an advantage of Indiegogo is that their strong international presence and additional features like the in-demand feature is good for long-term funding beyond just the startup phase. So in case you're like thinking about bringing a new product, a new service, launching something new, you need like a shot in the arm funding. That's another one. Now, the other area of capital that I didn't mention yet that I want to is the SBA, the small business from the government. So I know you can go to a bank. Obviously, that seems like the obvious one, but going through the SBA, they are still going to ask you for a lot of documents and materials, kind of like a venture capitalist would. So that's going to be our segue to talk about what do you need to put together if you are going after that kind of funding, like from the SBA, from a venture capital firm, or from a sophisticated angel investor that would ask you and require and anticipate that you have these types of documents. So the first thing is you have to have a business plan, a solid business plan. Now, on the back end of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate website, we have a template for a business plan. I know that myself and Rod and Jim would be happy to give another set of eyes on anyone that takes the time and effort to write a business plan. It's a tough thing to put together, especially if you've never done one. I would use our template. It's going to show you the boxes like to sort of fill in, because a lot of times you just don't know what you don't know. There's a few areas in a business plan that are going to be really important. You want an executive summary that's super concise and gives an overview of your business and goals. Because you're basically your investors, your lenders, your friends and family, anybody, they're going to want to understand your vision and how you plan to achieve it. You're going to want to make sure that you've got your logo and your colors and your branding all dialed in. You're going to want to look professional from the get-go. You're going to need a market analysis that shows research and demonstrating demand and industry trends. You're going to want to show who your competitors are. You're going to want to see where you stand out in the marketplace. You're going to want to do a cost analysis of your price points versus the market price. You're going to want to have financial projections in there. This includes a revenue forecast, profit margins, growth potential. You're going to want to go out at least 5 years. Now, this could be for your business plan. You also, if you're, I was working with an investor firm who was taking on stockholders. They had an investor deck, very similar, slightly different in terms of what the buckets are, but not terribly different. So, different businesses have different variations of this that are still, going to be asked for as like foundational. Hang on. I'm still getting over a cold. Sorry. Tea is just calms my throat. So why this matters. Having a well-prepared business plan shows that you're serious, shows that you're organized, you're capable of managing your business and any investments effectively. So it's a good confidence boost for yourself and for anyone else that's, has eyes on your business. I would also include in there a press release that talks about your business and a boilerplate of your about statement. And I would also include your golden circle statement, your why statement. And if we haven't talked about that, there is resources on the back end of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate that will teach you more about the golden circle and starting with why, based on this teachings by Simon Sinek. So we can talk about that later. Okay. So in addition to the business plan, you want to ensure that your financial and legal readiness is on par. So what are your financial and legal documents? You should have a checklist of your business registration and licensing. If you're going to start a business, you have to have, is it an LLC? Is it an S corp? Did you file your paperwork with Secretary of State? Did you get your EIN number? Um, are you set up for your tax returns? Do you have a CPA? Are you looking at profit and loss balance sheet every month? Are you categorizing your expenses and reconciling your billing every month? If you have payroll, are you filing your payroll taxes every month? Like, these are a checklist of ongoing operational pieces. And if you have any outstanding debt or credit issues, these should be cleaned up. And the reason that you have to have these separate is your social security number is you as a person, and your business is its own separate person. And so the EIN number is like your social security number for the business. So it's a separate entity, it's a separate person than you. So your business and you could have we'll have separate tax filings, we'll have separate debt structures, we'll have different liability. We need to keep them separate. And your investors are going to trust that your business is in good standing. Now, even if you're financially, personally in a different position, your business is what they're going to be looking at. And if you run into any trouble with your business, you also don't want that to impact your personal. So you got to keep them separate. You have multiple businesses, then you just have more. Also back to the, I know we said the business plan, we said financial and legal readiness. And then the third one in this bucket is, you need to define your funding goals and strategy so you're really clear about how your funding is going to be used. So how much capital do you need? How much are you asking for? And, what are the funds going to be used for? Is it for expansion? Is it for marketing? Is it for product development? Is it for, I'm not sure what? That only you can answer that question, but you have to have a plan. You can't just ask for the money and be like, I'm going to use it for the company. Okay, well, what are you going to use it for the company? They want to know you're going to be used for product research, or you're going to be using it to buy media, or, you have to kind of outline how's that going to help drive sales. That's what everybody's going to want to know. If I give you this money, how are you going to use it? And how's it going to increase sales? And how is it going to make me money on the back end? So, all right, all of that to say, I think I want to pivot a little bit here and talk about business credit. Because if your business doesn't have good credit, then that's something we should talk about too. So when you're first starting, your business doesn't have any credit history, right? So you have to start building credit, just like when you were a teenager or in your early 20s and you got your first credit card and you started building credit, your credit score. So your business has a credit score too over time. You pay your bills on time, but if you're brand new and you haven't just starting your business and you just got your EIN number, the first step is you're going to have to go to the bank and get a checking account and a savings account and a credit card, just like you're a brand new person, right? Your business is your new baby, and it has its own stuff. So you need to start building up your credit score so that if you do ever decide that you're going to need a loan from the SBA or from one of the banks or going after investors, you can put your credit score in your business plan or in your investor deck or in your projections. And that can impact the rate or the percentage of any kind of loan or capital that you could be taking. So some of the reasons that people ask for capital is maybe they're scaling their operations. So maybe they need to purchase more equipment, or they need more software or technology to increase to meet an increased demand. Maybe you need a bigger office. Maybe you are doing some research and development, or maybe you see an opportunity, and in order to respond quickly and take advantage of that, you need to have some capital. It's different than just covering your operating expenses. Like, that is not a good time to take money. If you're like, oh, I just can't make ends meet, I better go raise some money. Like that's not the way to do it. So you have to have a reason that you're raising money, and showing how that's going to help your business thrive and grow overall. So for entrepreneurs, you're building your reputation, you're building the reputation of your business. So in order to grow strategically and navigate these challenges, take your ambitious goals, you know, and turn those into measurable, tangible results. You know, so these are foundational pieces that are going to help you stay competitive and help you succeed in your marketplace, in your given industry. So, all right. The other thing I wanted to say about this, we talked about the business plan, we talked about knowing your numbers, revenue, profits, know who you're talking to. We talked about that. Sorry, I'm just double checking here. Um, oh, one of the things that I didn't mention is you should register, if you haven't already, with Dun and Bradstreet and obtain a DUNS number, a DUNS number. This is free and it's essential for building your credit for a company. There's also the NAICS number. Now, if you're going to go after any government contracts, then you should have these numbers. And there are a bunch of state and federal websites where you can register and start going after those types of RFPs. And if you're registered, then they'll be emailing you every time a government entity like the water district or the, um, the like energy or power or cities or states put out RFPs all the time. They do ones in California for for water conservation or saving power and electricity, or for healthcare. So those are some of the things that you can watch out for. And if you have all of these documents put together, it's going to be helpful because when you submit for an RFP, they're going to ask you the same kind of questions that are in your business plan, that are going to be in your capital raise documents. So you're like, oh yeah, well, I already did that. So these are the type of tools that you'll use again and again as an entrepreneur. Okay. I talked about those. We talked about self-funding, angel investors, VCs. Okay. I have some charts that recap what I talked about today. Sort of a decision framework in case you're not sure if you need more information about self-funding or angel investors or venture capital, based on the stage of your business, and how it will impact your ownership and what the growth expectation is. I'm going to put these charts on the back end of the Young Entrepreneur website, and I will send them in our group text and make them available. I also have another chart of like some takeaway action items that you should take regarding capital, about registering your business and opening business banking accounts and establishing vendor credit and monitoring your credit reports and how you would prepare for a capital raise. So those worksheets will all go on the back end of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate website. And with that, I am going to close out the lesson for tonight with two things. One is a quote from Sam Walton, who started Walmart and Sam's Club, and he said, "Capital isn't scarce, but vision is." So have a good vision and the capital will follow. And then also I wanted to mention that Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank has a few YouTube videos that I really like about capital. She's got one about investing with friends. It's on YouTube, and one about 10xing your business, also on YouTube. So in case you are either a podcast listener or you like to have YouTube on where you're like, working out, walking, cooking, gardening, those are some ones that I would recommend. And with that, I'm going to stop our lesson and we can open the floor for some questions. Give me just a moment, please.